Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about chapters 8 and chapters 9 of the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Now, this book was published 100 years ago, but the principles in this book are so spot on that they work even today. And I'm excited about chapters 8 and chapters 9 because I practice those principles. They help me to get out of debt and to start building wealth. And I have introduced this book to several other people who have read the same chapters, put these principles to work, came out of debt, and also started building wealth. So believe me, I can tell you for free that the principles in this book works. So let's dive into chapter 8. But before we go, please click on the like button and subscribe and share so that the algorithm would help you to see more content like this. Shall we begin? All right, so the story opens with a young man who is really broke and hungry. And so he's hanging outside an inn waiting to see if he can find someone he can borrow some money from. Unfortunately, he runs into one of his father's friends who he had already borrowed money from before. So unable to dodge the man now, the man like cornered him. I was like, oh boy, the money I loaned to you, oh yeah, pay me back now. And the guy was like, the young man was like, I really don't have that money, life hasn't been fair to me and all that. So this wise older man invited the young man into the restaurant. The young man was like, this is my lucky day. At least I'll eat free food for a year. He sat him down. The older man, Dabasir, is a camel herder. He ordered for goat, he ordered for beer, ordered every other mede, and then ordered for cold water for the young man. Told him to sit with him and started telling a story. Now, this story is where the magic happens. So, Dabashe talked about his own life, of how he got into debt, like the kind of debt that made him run away from home. Like his wife left him and went back to her parents. He ran away from his city and went to another city to avoid his creditors, the people he was owing. And along the way, he fell into bad company. And as a result of falling into bad company, he got sold as a slave. And he got sold as a slave. That was where fear began because the guy was, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. But fortunately for him, he was sold to a wealthy merchant who had 3 wives. He became the camel herder for the first wife and had several conversations with her and eventually led her to believe that he wasn't really a slave. And if he had an opportunity, he would go back home and turn his life around. So this lady gave him the opportunity to run away and go back home and turn his life around. And he did. So that's chapter 8. And chapter 9 now tells us how he turned his life around and became wealthy. He had a plan, a written down plan. And this plan works even today. So what is this plan? Very simple. He'll divide his earnings into 3 portions. And it is from this book that we get a very popular plan, which a lot of us must have heard of. If you've not heard of it, well, let me tell you about it. I did not originate it. It's called the 75-15-10 plan. Okay, so first of all, you must reserve money for yourself. We've been talking about that throughout this book, throughout our review of this book. A tenth of what you make is yours to keep. So the first thing he would do whenever he earns any money is to keep 10% for himself. Now, he brings out 15% to pay back debts because you have to pay back your creditors. So he did something very ingenious. He went to everybody he was owing. He convinced them to allow him to go on a payment plan. And once they did, he was able to stick to it. So 15% of everything he earned went into paying back debts. And finally, he lived on 75% of what he made. Because if you make a plan that you cannot survive on, believe me, the plan will not work. So this 75-15-10 plan actually works. I can testify to that because I tried it. Years ago, I was in serious debts, like crazy debts. At the beginning of this year, when I sat down and I calculated how much was left for me to pay my way out of debt, it was 42 months. So 42 months of removing 15% of my salary every month without fail to clear the debts that I was owing. Fortunately, along the process, as I started the process and started paying, one or two things happened and it accelerated my payments because I got a lump sum and I funneled one third of that lump sum into debt repayment. And, it really accelerated my debt repayment. And I can tell you for free that by the end of this year, in the next 5 months, I will be completely and totally debt free, house and all. And that is amazing because I honestly did not think, did not believe that this will happen because of the weight of the loans and the calls and the threats and everything. But it's like it says in the Bible, all things work together for good for those who love God, for those who are called according to his promises. And even like nature knew, the Lord knew that I needed to get out of debt, and I was trying my best, my hardest to do that, and he made a way, and I'm still following the plan. So what now happens? So what happens when you're finally out of debt? Then we switch from paying of debt to building up our emergency fund. So you have your 10% which you have been saving. And then you will now have the 15% which you have been using to pay debts. So you add that together, that's 25%. You build up your emergency fund. Your emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of living expenses in liquid cash or in a high yield savings account or in a money market fund or something that you can easily liquidate. So once you have done that and you have your emergency fund, your 6 months emergency fund in place, or more, the remaining the 25% now you put it into your retirement, you put it into your investment, and you will just watch your wealth skyrocket just like that. So that is where we draw the curtain on the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. I hope you've had as much fun as I have going through this book. And I hope you really, you're putting into practice everything that you have learned. The next book we are going to delve into will be The Millionaire Next Door. I'm just giving you a hint ahead of time so that you go and get the book, and I'll see you in the next video. If you've not yet liked this video, what are you waiting for? Like now, like and subscribe and share, and I'll see you in the next video.